Bienvenidos a un episodio más de LEGADO Live. I'm very happy and pleased to be this morning with my very friend, Justin Craig, who is a full professor at Bond University in Australia, but also a visiting professor at Kellogg School of Management, as well as IFEM.
Yes.
Family Enterprising Institute. And this morning, we are going to talk about learning as a process of continuity, if I'm allowed to say that. But tell us a little bit of one of your frameworks that is one of my favorites, the 4 L's, and walk us through these different quadrants, but in a broad way, in order to understand what those quadrants tell the family members in order to plan for their continuity and find out ways of enjoying and passing their legacy through generations.
Thanks, Maria, and it's great to be involved in this initiative. So the framework that you allude to is what you would remember as the 4 L's. The 4 L's framework, it's a learning and life cycle framework. So it covers across the life cycle of the individual and how they learn. My colleague and mentor and very good friend, Professor Ken Moores, conducted a study with his colleague, Mary Barrett, in the early 90s, a pioneering study, and studied leaders of business-owning families and established how they learned in their roles to lead their businesses. Their book, that was consequently published, is very insightful. It's been insightful to me and insightful to many others. And I've spent the last 2 decades telling as many people as I can the richness of this framework. And as you alluded to, it has 4 quadrants. So across the life cycle of the individual, they first learn business, quadrant 1, L1. That evolves into the second quadrant where they need to learn our family business. Going on to the third quadrant, L3, they need to learn to lead their family business. And finally, L4, the most important, or should I say, equally important, but the most difficult, learning to let go. So this conversation this morning that we're having will probably link back to those 4 quadrants.
Yeah. So why is it so important to understand this evolution in order to pursue dreams in a context of family business? Why is it so important to enjoy what we learn, to enjoy this possibility of...
That's a good question and relates back to our discussion prior to going onto this podcast. The concept of learning. Now, when we look at learning, and some people are sort of, learning is an arduous process, learning is a formal process. Well, the way I look at it, and the way that many people that I have this conversation with, learning is about being curious, that innate curiosity that we all have. But sometimes when you put it about learning, it means that, that takes me back to a time where I was uncomfortable. But the way I look at it, learning is evolutionary, which means that if you don't continue to learn, you will not survive. And we all are innate learners, but sometimes it's packaged in some ways that, it doesn't spark our curiosity like it should. But every hour we learn, every day we learn, and across the life cycle that the 4 L's established, it gives you a learning journey that you are actually on. From beginning, when you can first open your ears, you start to learn about business if you're from a business-owning family. And as you evolve and you have more exposure to formal education, you match that or you marry that with the informal learning that you're having just by being involved, being around the business in your early stages of your life. The next thing, you need to become curious about what it is that your family does You need to learn that. You need to understand that. You need to be exposed to that. You think you know what's the secret to your family business success because of casual jobs you've had, conversations your dad's had, but really you need to roll up the sleeves and find out what it is that we do differently to other businesses.
Some people might say in different conversations before that you cannot love what you don't know. So in order to love your business, you have to know your business. And in order to know your business, you have to learn how it's done and many other things. And as you said, you're talking about how informally we learn along the way, but also you have to practice the formal and the informal way of learning. So what is it that, in order to keep that curiosity alive, is it in a more informal context or is it more formal? So what can you...
The way I look at that, and you use the word love, and I like that you use the word love because it sparked in me to think that you need to have an intimate relationship with all the moving parts. You can't have, can't outsource this. You can't outsource your love for what it is that you love. It's you having that intimate relationship of all the moving parts, of all that which makes up this business owning family and this business. And that means that maybe that you don't necessarily drawn to some of the functional areas of the business, but you need to develop an intimate relationship with these different facets. And that to me is a lovely way of putting it, to say, well, yes, if I really am serious about this, I have to move from liking it to loving it. And the business family owners that I know, they do love it. They do see it as an extension of themselves. It defines them. So it's moving from, I like what I do, to loving what I do. And as a family in Europe once told me, and it was a beautiful conversation I had, they said to me, and they're a 6th-generation family, and they said to me, one of the leaders said, Justin, you need to understand something, that a role in our business is not a job, it's not a career, it's a vocation. And that has stayed with me since, and I can tell you the time and the day where that person said that, because that really depicts the way that people need to deeply learn, have deep knowledge of this complex business and this complex family.
Thank you. Gracias y hasta la próxima en un nuevo episodio de Legado Live.